eyes up, don't get all tied up. Hoping you wise up the multiple lies of the multifaceted, multi-complex system of living that people are living. Stuck in inertia, that's a diversion. Government worship, instead we are searching ancient mysteries, ancient history, sacred energy, and how to discern it. Human autonomy, truth of philosophy, UFOlogy, human psychopathy, super anomalies, human ecology, you got lobotomies up in your consciousness. All the thoughts that we've been dancing around. The system wants to blow your candle out, but we won't let it. We reject it with our pathetic lies, so we chant it down.
Chant It Down podcast is your gateway to your unraveling of a complex system that is grabbing hold of the lives of you and everyone you know. Come untangle from this woven web to understand this crazy world. Chant It Down with your host, Loomis.
Welcome back to Chant It Down. I'm your host, Loomis. ChantItDownRadio.com is a website. This is episode 275. And welcome back, everyone, after a bit of a hiatus, but still working behind the scenes. A lot of times on this show, I'm here to tell you that the regular world has been scrubbed of a way more interesting, divine-filled, miraculous, mind-blowing, multi-dimensional world than we've been shown or told. It's weirder than we think. It's wilder than we think. The extremes are much more vast than we think. And the regular world is very bland in comparison. A world where we are told that the sum total of human existence is just this, and I'm never satisfied with it. And this is all there is to the world kind of a scenario. Has just never been my thing. And I've asked questions since I was a little boy. I always knew there was more, even in the most caught up version of me as a teenager trying to be cool and everything. I knew there was more. And my guest today is Zach Royer, writer, paranormal investigator, explorer, and co-founder of the Hawaii Writers Alliance. Zach explores mysticism, ancient wisdom, and the rich cultural and spiritual tapestry of Hawaii, and a lot of subjects I can get on board with him on, and you can find his work at ZachRoyer.com. And so he agrees with a lot of things we're talking about today here, just getting into the more interesting aspects of human life. So welcome to the show, welcome to the show, Zach.
Thanks, Loomis. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Well, so I guess I should ask you, first question is, how did you get started in the work that you do? You know, people like us don't seem to be entertained by the normal things in the world. So how did Zach Royer become a explorer and many other things?
Well, I have to give credit to when I moved to Hawaii. Living in Hawaii turns almost anybody into an adventurer and explorer. You kind of, you have to take on a persona of excitement and mystery. And basically, you know, upon moving here, I was hearing a lot about the myths, the legends, the stories that are associated with these islands and across the entire Pacific. And I started to see, you know, similarities from the Hawaiian culture all the way down to, you know, Aratoa and New Zealand and just all across the Pacific. And so I made a website. I started doing like a hosting, you know, friends over at the house. We would talk about cool things, and it really just piqued my interest. And so I'd have to say, you know, coming to Hawaii is really what really catalysted and all that. So blessed to be here. You live in Hawaii too, so you know how amazing it is and how inspiring it is. And it's a place that sometimes time forgets. You know, they say you're on Hawaiian time, and everyone's here, you know, for whatever reason, whether it's vacationing or working. And there's a lot of mysteries that kind of fall through the cracks and haven't been explored, as you know. Yeah. So that's when the persona of Royer the Explorer was born. Yeah,
That's great. Yeah. Hawaii does open up when Hawaii gets into people's blood. It really opens up a whole new world, and that's why a lot of people I've noticed have moved here, left because it is expensive and it's a hard place to make a living and all that. But they come back. They always come back because there's something about Hawaii that has an energy to it that I don't know. I mean, I know some of my listeners haven't been here, but maybe like maybe we can kind of describe what it is that Hawaii has that a lot of places maybe don't. I mean, there's a lot of spiritual aspects of everywhere in the world, but Hawaii has a specific energy out here that I, I don't even know if either of us can put into words to explain to people that haven't been here, but there's something about the land here that gives maybe the veils more thin between the supernatural or whatever, but there's something about Hawaii that has a vibration all to its own.
absolutely. I wrote about the energy of the island in my 2014 book, The Hawaii Vortex Field Guide. And basically, the islands are magnetic because they're made of lava, lava rock. And when lava rock solidifies, it holds the magnetic signature that was in nature at that time. So we have a lot of, the Big Island is, they say, 500,000 to 1 million years old. Oahu, Kauai, Maui, they're all older. And so the magnetic fields during those times were a lot different on Earth. And yeah, I just try to put it into terms I think that are new age that people will understand, and so I call it a vortex energy. It's also on the Big Island, and specifically Mauna Kea is on the 19.5 parallel. I don't know if you've heard anything about the 19.5, either north or south of the equator, and that's where a lot of anomalies are found. And so my research has suggested that Mauna Kea is right on that 19.5 parallel, and so it's something about the placement of where we are. And if you get even deeper, literally deeper, down to the hot spot that forms these islands, you start to understand a little bit more about how special this place is. I mean, we're in the middle of the ocean, thousands of miles away from any other land, and yet here we are, and people have been here for thousands of years and even longer.
Yeah.
I'm excited for our upcoming adventure. We're going to be doing some neat expeditions that I can't quite
Yes,
give
we
all
are.
the details.
No, not yet.
But prepare for some excitement on the horizon here.
Yeah.
It's been years since I've been exploring, because some of the things that I've done have led to business opportunities, and now I run a tour company here on the Big Island. We do ghost tours, vortex tours, UFO tours. And I also run a publishing company because a lot of these stories were just orally passed. And now we, with modern technology and capabilities, we can churn out a book in as little as a week or two and, get it out there to the world. So it's just the more you think about it, the cooler it really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool. Now let's go back. You were talking about the 19.5. I know a little bit about it because actually I watched one of your videos on it too. But 19.5 latitude, are there other places on the Earth that are good examples of this vortex energy?
Absolutely. A lot of the megaliths, pyramids around the world, they're within a certain band. And, just because Mauna Kea right now is 19.5 doesn't mean that it's always been there. There's been pole shifts and other things. And
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of these ancient megalithic sites, including the Great Pyramid of Giza, Sacsayhuaman in, I think it's Peru, and they could have been built at a different latitude in the past. They're just so old, and it's hard to really to know since we weren't there. And majority of the research that's been done has been done by independent researchers and not verified by archaeologists or scientists and accepted. And that's kind of why we're in this, because it's like we haven't been getting the full story. And so it's just it's a mystery.
Yes.
And just like you said in the intro, we knew there was something more to this when we signed up to be human and to come down. and to be here. And so yeah, you'll find not even just on planet Earth, but other planetary bodies, like the storm on Jupiter is, or what? Yeah, Jupiter. I'm pretty sure there, it's at that 19.5 parallel,
Oh,
and
the red
the
circle.
red eye. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
red.
red eye. Hmm.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so it falls in that line of latitude. There's just something real special about those latitudes.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely something, and it's not like all these places that, you know, Sacsay Huaman, which is in the Andes and the mountains, it's high up, or Giza, which is in a desert. And I know the Earth has changed, and we can talk more about that too, because I have some thoughts about that. But these aren't really habitable places. Like you wouldn't really want to live 12,000 feet up in the Andes. It's unless you had to, and you wouldn't want to live in the Sahara. And a lot of these places aren't these megalithic spots, and important places aren't exactly in places that are in the comfortable band of living necessarily. Depends, but they're places that are important, and that's why a lot of these spots too were the materials were quarried somewhere else and then brought to these spots rather than just built where they were quarried, because there's something about these spots. And as a
Mhm.
friend of mine on the show always says, a good spot's a good spot. So they utilize these spots.
Yeah. I've been reading too a little bit more about the pyramids and that are in deserts. And it's at some point they weren't deserts. They were lush, fertile crescents where immense amounts of food were grown, and something happened. The last disaster, whether it was the Younger Dryas event or the last pole shift. The fact is that the Earth is always changing, and you know all we can see are the leftover bits of evidence, like a stone structure, like a pyramid, or in Hawaii they have heiaus.
Yeah.
And so that was prehistoric, not prehistoric, but ancient man's way of trying to say, "Hey, we were here." Today we build with wood and compostable, sustainable materials, and stones are sustainable too, but they're going to be here for thousands and thousands of years. And so it was imperative that these ancient peoples left their mark. As you said, they quarried a lot of stones from miles and miles away and were able to transport it, which has still always been fascinating to me,
Yeah.
because it's hard to replicate that today with hydraulic machinery. And so there's all this evidence pointing to a very different ancient past, and it's enlightening to talk about it, to research it, to try to develop a better picture. And I commend you for doing that with your podcast and your
Oh,
your documentaries and your
thank you.
research, and everyone out there's research. It's all a collective,
Thank
and
you.
so I welcome comments and visitors and anything else to the islands can really help enlighten you and show you a side of Hawaii, a side of the world that isn't really mainstream anymore. It's alternative.
Yeah. It's sucks that it got sidelined to the mainstream, but then it's fascinating for people like us because it's such a mystery to uncover. And actually it's really fun to uncover all this. So I'm not like totally upset that it's been sidelined, but I would like more answers too. Like I know you
Mhm.
would too. Like there's so many questions. Like the more you dig into this, the more questions you have. And then I'm like, wow, I wish I knew why we're not able to, I don't know, dig in the Giza plateau and find more. And there's all these things that just we're not able to do to find the answers that we really want to get. But um, then it is part of the journey, the mystery of exploring Earth and exploring why people live that way versus now we live this way. But it also shows us too that we kind of live in a captive reality,
Mm.
and that this isn't all that there is. And it's good. It's enlightening. It makes you feel good to know that this isn't all there is. Because, like I said in the intro, what I was kind of alluding to is that we this doesn't really fulfill our like natural instincts for a lot of us that are truth seeking and trying to explore. We don't really find like interest in just going to work every day and doing the same mundane thing. It's not fulfilling because we know there's more.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what you think about the moon coming into existence, because there is so many cultures around the world that say they know a world before the moon came in, and if it maybe came into the world and knocked the earth into its 23-degree axis, that's just a theory that I work with sometimes, but who knows? I mean, but what do you think about the moon coming in and changing these spots? In fact, I know I had Brian Forrester on years back, and he was talking about the Central Avenue in Karnak is not aligned to the current axis of the planet. It's aligned to the axis of a planet straight up on its axis versus the 23-degree tilt. So
Mhm.
there's a lot to that. I don't know what you think about the moon coming in as a later addition to our existence.
Sure. Well, I personally believe that the Earth is the moon is artificial.
Me too.
Is basically a space station for the custodians that have kind of been playing a part in humanity's existence since we were created by them. And it's okay. People are allowed to believe what they want, but the research and the evidence is suggesting, I mean, the face of the moon never changes. There's always the dark side. It's one of the largest moons in our solar system, actually the largest moon compared to the size of the planet that it orbits.
Yep.
It's hollow, supposedly. There was the bell, the ringing, and then all the whistleblowers coming forward from NASA and saying either we never went to the moon, or when we got there we weren't the only ones. So I'm fairly convinced, that it's artificial and it's basically put there um, to act as an observation deck of the Earth. And you know, I don't know much more about it than that. I'm still kind of researching and trying to. I mean, but my conclusion is that it's artificial, and if that's the case, that leads to all sorts of implications of um, peoples or off-world visitors that are capable of creating such a spaceship like the moon. Um, it just makes you really wonder. I mean, if they can build the pyramids, they can probably build a moon with the lack of gravity. And um, yeah, so apparently it did hit Earth a while back and stayed in the orbit, and so that's where it came from. There is evidence that there was not a moon before, and there's peoples that have said that one day it came in, and that could actually be what caused a global disaster in the past. The change in gravity and the change in tides and other things.
Yeah.
The interesting connection, though, is that the Hawaiians have a lunar calendar that they plant and they fish by. So instead of planting during the day when there's sunlight out, they'll plant at night when there's moonlight out or a lack of a moon for certain crops.
Yeah.
So it's been there long enough to have had um, a part in various indigenous cultures, but it wasn't there the entire time, and there's many inconsistencies with our moon, Luna, and fascinating subject. I mean, if
Yes.
we were there in the 60s and 70s on these Apollo missions, why haven't we gone back? Why isn't there an actual base there yet?
I know.
Well, there is. It's just not our base, and there's lots of books out about that, and it's highly compelling to ask these questions and kind of see what it leads to, what conclusions one has. But yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's one of the biggest mysteries, and I just think it's artificial. I really do.
Me too.
The fact that it's so perfectly spaced and sized for the eclipse side of things too. Um, I remember there was a quote by a scientist saying they questioned it because it's just too perfect, the way it's all lined up, and the way the size compared to the distance between the sun.
Yeah.
It's too perfect, and those perfections, those coincidences, don't exist really in nature. So we're dealing with some pretty advanced people here, people that have had star travel, possibly time travel. Um, Maybe they're related in some way. The faster you go, the slower time goes, or whatnot. And but I think we're coming to a point in human history, modern history, where these truths are going to be uncovered, and they are going to cause a great awakening, a paradigm shift, if you will. And yeah.
I fully agree. I feel like this is the time of like the great revealing. Of course, that's called the apocalypse too, but it's the
Right.
great revealing of, like, I think we're on the last threads of this type of life, this civilization we're in. I feel like we are on the last days of normality before
Mhm.
something big comes in. It almost feels it just feels like everything's sort of running dry in our civilization. I did a show about a year ago, comparing how the 80s were more of a time rich in culture when I grew up as a kid in the 80s, compared to now, because they're still like going back and doing like reboots of all these movies. It feels like, and that's a small like look at, uh, you know, of what's going on, but just the fact that our civilization seems to be kind of running thin with, it's done what it's done what it could, and it's time for something bigger to like come in and paradigm shift. That's
Mhm.
what I've been saying for years on this show, is paradigm shift. It's like, I think that, or it has to happen. I don't think we can just keep running the course we're running.
Right. There's that deathbed confession by Werner von Braun, the
Oh yeah.
co-founder of NASA, and his assistant, on his deathbed. He told his assistant that there would be, the final card, and that would be a staged alien invasion. And then you look in the media about a year ago, you're having all these UFO shoot downs, like they're
Yeah.
priming something. And then you have all these whistleblowers, David Gruff and Luis Elizondo and David Fravor, Lieutenant Commander David Fravor, the Tic Tac UFO. I mean, they're all coming forward. These are dependable, reliable sources, but you still have to be discerning with who's coming forward, what the agenda
Yes.
could be. Look at both sides of it. But I'm fairly certain that the powers that wish they could be remaining in power are going to do everything they can to maintain that power, that
Yeah.
control over us, and so, you know, pay attention. Don't believe there's an alien invasion unless you're actually on some metallic table being probed. I mean, don't believe what you see, because anything can be fake nowadays, especially with AI, with Operation, what is it, Blue Beam, where
Yeah.
they're they're basically practicing to see what our reactions are, as a kind of a global consciousness, and don't be fooled. That's why, do your research, expect the unexpected, but be prepared. And that's another reason why I live in Hawaii, is because I'm seeing it now, the chaos that's going on all around the world, in the UK, in France, even on the mainland, the continental United States, with the
Yeah.
border crisis and all this chaos. It seems organized. And I remember reading about the Illuminati. They like to make order from chaos. And so if everybody's, you know, um, in a chaotic state, it's easy for them to come in with a solution. Oh, here, everyone take a vaccine, everyone do this. And I don't want to
Hmm.
get too deep into that subject because it's still highly controversial. But it seems like there's more control when there's chaos. And it really makes you look around and go, oh, okay, well, this is manufactured chaos.
It is. Yeah.
And we're not fooled anymore. And more people are waking up, with the advent of the internet. It used to
Yeah.
just be all the newspapers, the propagandists, and now there's podcasts and there's independent journalism and other things, and that's really what sparked my curiosity and to get into this field, because obviously things are manufactured. We're being told a certain thing, yet anyone with a discerning mind can see it. It sometimes leads to the opposite conclusion.
Yeah, yeah. We're in the time, I call it the century of psyops, the 21st century.
Oh,
Since it's
100%.
opened up, we've just been bombarded by lies and fear events, and like life wasn't like this before 2001 as much anyway. And also I know the dark occultists who run this world are sorcerers. They work with trickery and magic, and they are the ones who are giving people the illusion to go off their television screens, and all their screens, they're bombarded by screens every day.
Mhm.
We are in the world of the age of trickery and deception, and so yeah, we really do have to be discerning. So when you talk about this alien invasion, I mean, why would they invade when they've had all of time to invade, and
Exactly.
or show up before? Another thing too is, though, the other side of this coin, though, and maybe this is something you can speak on too, I don't know, but uh, when they announced um, aliens are real and we have biological bodies, like what was that, just a few years ago? Nobody seems to care.
About
It's
a year
kind of
ago.
weird, isn't
Yeah,
it
we've
weird?
been desensitized because of Hollywood.
I
We're
guess so.
desensitized now, and
Yeah.
everybody would rather TikTok and fulfill their own ego rather than admitting, because it's easier to ignore than it is to accept these truths. And you're right; they have admitted it. They being the media, they being the whistleblowers, the craft retrieval, and the bodies. But here's the spin on that. It's almost like we as humans are part star visitor as well. The Anunnaki, or the custodians. I'm reading a book right now called Gods of Eden,
Oh,
um, by
William Bramley.
William Bramley, and
Excellent book. Yeah.
it is, and it's an eye opener. I recommend everybody read that book because it explains why we're still in this society, this warlike society. It keeps everybody in that chaos, as I mentioned a minute ago. But we could possibly be their creation as well, and therefore part alien, at least some of us, with the different blood types, O negative and the negative AB negative. There are these rhesus negative blood types, and it just the rabbit hole goes deep in that. But if it does seem like they're not going to show up because we're already here,
Yeah.
and that's the big wool over our eyes. It's just such a conundrum and a rabbit hole. But we're all trying to figure it out together, and that's the beauty of it. That's what's great about humanity is when people can come together for a topic like this, or
Yeah.
any subject. We can do great things.
Right. That there's so many anomalies with the human. Like, you take a human and you look at the rest of the creatures on Earth, we're nothing like them. I've really I like the take on, I don't know if you've read Lloyd or heard Lloyd Pye's work.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the star skull.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
he talks about, I mean, it's not really like even his original work. He's just saying that basically they found a more primitive species, whatever that may be. Some people say it was Sasquatch. Some people say it was just a more hunter gatherer like human, but they modified them. And like, our evolution is way too quick for Darwin's theory. We're out on our own, like little, and there's so many like, if we were made in just only in God's image, perfect, then why do we have the human genome have over 4,000 defects and stuff? And so it's just like there's a lot of strange anomalies with humans, and even the races of humans. I mean, everyone's human, and I don't, but like, as far as like how different so many cultures on the earth look, ethnicities, it's like, is it really just because of the environment they grew up in and evolved in? I think there might be even a little bit more to that too. And
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe some people get offended by that, but that's, we're all human, but it's like there is so many different looking people on the planet. It just doesn't seem like, for the amount of years since mitochondrial Eve, which was a little over 200,000 years, that's as far back as they can go with mitochondrial DNA, that we would have evolved and looked all this different is just kind of crazy to me. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, if we evolved from apes, as according to Darwin's theory, why are there still apes?
Right. Yeah. And why aren't there other
Mm.
transitional species out there? Like, why aren't
Exactly.
there like continual transitional species? Like, why haven't salmon decided to grow arms so they could defend themselves against a bear that's trying to grab them out of the water, or anything like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious at this point, to me. I mean, everyone has to do their research to find the conclusions.
Yeah.
As a tour guide, I'm just presenting my experiences and my research and understanding, and I don't expect anyone to believe it without seeing it themselves. I've seen unexplained things in the sky, on the land, and I talk about that, but I don't expect people to believe it without experiencing it themselves. And so, yeah, it's another one of those questions, is to are we really modified? And you look at everything being genetically modified today, everything from papaya to corn to the Roundup Ready seeds. I mean, everything's about genetics, genetics, genetics. And if you look at our DNA and something they call junk DNA,
Yeah.
why is there junk DNA?
Yeah.
Because it's been altered a bit and turned off, through genetic manipulation.
Yeah.
And I mean, if these folks can quarry, and these space visitors, the Anunnaki, the custodians, if they can quarry and carry and transport 50-ton, 100-ton blocks like they're Lincoln logs, um, and they can build moons, artificial satellites, their capabilities are a million plus years ahead of ours. And it's just a fascinating time we live in, because it's going to be exposed sooner or later. There's always going to be the good and the bad, and the ups and the downs, the yins and the yangs. And here we are, just trying to get a better picture of it. But you can't really understand until you see the whole picture, until you understand the both sides of the coin, the
Yeah.
yin and yang, and the good God and the evil devil. It's all a dualistic, even magnets, positive, negative.
Yeah.
It's not. You can't really understand one until you understand the other two, and sometimes you can kind of reverse, engineer, or reverse understand by going the other direction.
Maybe that's why it's so important to focus on the ancient past, like I am and you are both doing, because of I feel like the answers are there more than now. Like we need to back engineer this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's just a few things in the world can't really hide: the sun, the moon,
Yeah.
talking about that, and the truth. And so eventually the truth will come out, whether we have to dig it up, whether we have to reverse it, engineer it, or decode it in some way. The truth will always be there. And what is truth? Truth is what feels right, what makes sense, what um, uh, can't be changed,
It's
but can be.
immutable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're at a point right now in our current lives where the truth is as skewed as it gets. People are confused on certain topics, and it's because it's manufactured to be that way. you know so in Hawaii, you get a chance to step away, take a step back, and see the bigger picture in a way. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why the original explorers left their homelands to get here, because things were not as ideal as they could be, and so they constantly were moving and exploring and starting new things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a place that everybody seems to start over, no matter if you moved here in modern day from the mainland, or you came from an double hauled canoe from the Marquesas Islands and paddled over or whatever. It is a place that you have to come to and transition. I wanted to get into with you, since it's a good place to get into it, is a little bit about Mu. You've done some research into it, and I did. I did a show a few months back with a friend showing the remnants across the Pacific of monuments and structures that don't fit the current indigenous cultures who live in these spots. And I just thought maybe we could, like, try to fill in the gaps a little bit about Mu, because here we are in Hawaii, which is apparently the tops of the sunken continent, as
The
well as a lot of the
mountaintops of Mu.
Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you have a video called Mountaintops of Mu too.
Well, I
Yeah.
was going to do a conference and cruise with David Childress from Ancient Aliens and all his crew, Brian Forster, many years ago.
Mhm.
And I released a teaser, trailer video about the cruise. It was a 7-day inter-island cruise called the Mountaintops of Mu Conference and Cruise. And yeah, so Hawaii. And there's something called Polynesia. There's something called Polynesia means many islands. And at some point, when the tides were the ocean levels were a lot lower, many of these islands might have been connected through land bridges. And in researching the Hawaiian connection to Mu or these ancient civilizations, you find that word in their language. Mu, M-U, is a Hawaiian word, and it's probably older than the Hawaiian culture. For instance, the word kumu means teacher. Um, you know, there's other examples of the word mu in there. But yeah, it was one of the early topics that I was super interested in because it felt like that would be a good place to start searching. And many researchers have found that that's the topic that they want to research. And what was the author's name? He wrote a lot of books about Mu.
Churchwood, James
Churchward,
Churchwood.
yeah,
Yeah.
James Churchward, and then I think Augustus Laplangian was one as well. It 100 years ago, this was a huge topic. This finding this motherland of Mu, this lost continent. Just like Atlantis. So Mu is basically the Pacific's version of Atlantis, this lost continent. A lot of people tend to confuse Mu and Lemuria. And Lemuria is not really a Polynesian word. It's a lot different than some of the words you find in the Polynesian language structures. But Australia, Lemuria, they have that similar sounding phonetics. But my research would say that Lemuria was actually a part of a lost the continent of India, or the country of India, lost part of the Indian Ocean.
Oh, right.
And the reason they called it Lemuria was because they found lemur fossils and bones, and there was no land bridge at the time, so it was hard to really understand how this lemur, the creature, the animal, made it there. They couldn't swim that far.
From Madagascar, I think it is. Yeah.
And so Lemuria is more in the Indian Ocean, according to my research, and Mu would be more Polynesia, the Polynesian Triangle, which one tip is Easter Island over there, and then, of course, Australia and New Zealand and Polynesia down there, and then up to Hawaii. So you have this triangle. And I have an unreleased book that I'm been working on for a decade now about my research into Mu and the continent. And
nice.
So expect to touch on that when we do our expeditions and future research together. I'll show you what I got. I probably should have brought it last time we met, but I was focusing on the vortex energy of Oahu. I wanted to see why these heiaus are aligned to star clusters and star systems, and take some energy readings using a tri-field meter and magnetometer and compass. And I was blown away, and I'm working on that now, the Oahu Vortex Field Guide. It will have probably a section on Mu and these star maps and things. And I didn't show you all the ones I have, but I did show you a couple, and you indicated you were pretty fascinated by that. And
Yeah, I totally am. Yeah,
yeah,
heiaus. Heiaus, for those that don't know, are Hawaiian altars. They're rock piles. Some kind of resemble step pyramids, but they're not pyramids, and their rocks aren't like megalithic, but they're put there. And I guess, what do they put? Are they put in? Are they all in vortex spots? Are they, or ley lines, or what would you?
well, it not all of them,
Not all.
because some are built for specific purposes, like a fishing altar, a food offering
Yeah,
altar, and but the major ones, like on the Big Island down south in Kealakekua Bay, we have one of the largest heiaus on the island, Hikiau Heiau.
yeah,
And then there's another one up north called Pu'ukohola Heiau, which are gigantic,
yeah,
that took probably years to build, whereas some can be built in a day or a week. So I don't believe all of them are lined up, but I believe some of the more ancient ones, like the one we're gonna go look for on soon,
hmm,
are possibly aligned to the stars at a different time. You got to remember, when the planet went through its last quote disaster or shift, a cyclical cycle, these structures were already built to different stars and different
yeah,
alignments. So we're going to see slightly off alignments, and
hmm,
and that'll indicate whether it's ancient or more modern. But I was just looking at a star map that I had here, and compared to Kauai and a lot of the heiaus on Kauai, which is a very spiritual island, a very special place,
yeah,
and one of the oldest islands. And it just blows me away that people could have built in such a way to align with the stars when when according to modern archaeologists, they're very primitive. It just doesn't add up, you
no,
know. Especially something like the Great Pyramid, where they had copper chisels and tools. Come on now, you
yeah,
can't lie to us anymore. You can't
right,
you can't cover it up anymore. People are critically thinking now because of the Great Awakening that's approaching, the apocalypse. It's not the end of the world, but it's the end of the illusion. It's the great revealing. And one of my books that I've published for my author, Sean McCleary, uh, he wrote a book called the Apocalypse. Apocalypse Now, not Apocalypse Now. It was oh goodness, I can't recall. He's written so many books, but he had apocalypse in the title, and he explains that it doesn't mean the end of the world. It just means the end of the illusion, or the you know, yeah. So
I'm ready for this illusion to end.
yeah, me
Yeah,
too, me too. And our eyes are open, and so we can kind of see it happening in real time. A lot of people, I think, are going to be caught off guard and not prepared.
right,
So be prepared as much as you can, as far as having a plan. We're probably going to be going through a series of natural disasters. Yellowstone erupted not too long ago. There was a geyser that erupted unexpectedly. Things are changing, and it matches the pace that humanity is changing as well. It's all connected, and that's
yeah,
something that I've learned in Hawaii, is that it's all connected. So how we are here and what we think affects not only the people around us, but the rest of the world, because we're on that ley line, that parallel, in the vortex, and it goes to the rest of the world. So we're in a really special place because we can influence our fellow man and fellow women, people that we can. Yeah, I'm digressing, but it's
no,
it's
no,
a
it's good. Yeah,
yeah. This is a special place, and yeah, just be prepared. That's what I learned in Boy Scouts.
yeah, we need to be. I don't know. I guess some of us just already were thinking that way, but yeah, I don't, like I said, we're on the last threads of whatever this is currently, and I think we all need to be very prepared, but prepared. It's exciting, scary, fun, all that. It's many things, but I think we're going to help do that with some revealing of this expedition we're going on, which should be pretty big. And I guess I'll just keep it on under wraps for now. But the
Yeah.
documentary will exhibit that, and we will it'll be seen. Yeah. I wanted to go into another direction with you if we can. And that is you do UFO tours, and I watch the skies at night as well. So in your observations, I mean, is there a way to define what a satellite is up there at night versus a UFO? Because I see a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. I see, and I've talked about this in the show with another guy, a few people actually, but basically you see like a satellite, or what's supposed to be a satellite, going slow and another one going fast, and you'll see them disappear. You'll see some going all different directions, so it doesn't make sense with the orbit of the Earth. None of it makes sense to me. So I guess what is your discernment when you're looking at the sky at night?
Okay, so I use a few different mobile apps, satellite tracking apps, and they indicate if a satellite is flying over you, or for instance, the space station, so observers can look. So we couple that. To me, a satellite is a slow-moving, steady object that's going in one direction, doesn't turn, doesn't stop, doesn't
Yeah.
reverse, doesn't light up. There might be a little bit of refraction from the sun if like a panel is hitting it just right. But when we do our UFO tours, we go up to 9,500 feet on the very
Wow.
center of the Big Island on Mauna Loa, not Mauna Kea, but Mauna Loa. And we just sit there and we observe. And we've seen some strange anomalies where supposedly these satellites, they're kind of flying in opposite direction, and they stop and they go back, and they're kind of crisscrossing, and that's absolutely not a satellite.
No.
And so there's ways to discern what is and what isn't, and a UFO or UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. There's ways, and so we of course we have our night vision goggles. We use flight radar app. We use what's the name of this sat track app that I have here? It's called Satellite Tracker, and it's you have to pay for the access, but it can definitely show you if what you're seeing. I mean, your intuition too. You have a good intuition, so that doesn't seem like a normal flight path. Now, here's where it gets really strange. I was on a UFO tour probably about 6 months ago up there, and that was the night we were seeing these crisscrossed what we thought were satellites, where they were crisscrossing, but it wasn't planes, it wasn't satellites. So we had an amazing experience, and then about a week later, I'm sitting on my front porch having coffee, and I'm talking about it with my partner, and I get a call from a guy on Oahu, and I met him because of my time in MUFON as a MUFON UFO researcher. He was one of my cases that I had researched, and his stuff was very far out there, and so it's still ongoing. But he called me, and he had no idea that I had this experience a week before, and he straight up told me that the Galactic Federation knows what I'm doing, and they want me to keep continuing to try to contact them. And so he blew me away. He says, "Oh, that thing you saw the other night, that was them trying to get your attention." How could he know that? That's my question. How could he know that? And there
I
was
don't
a
know.
couple other synchronicities as well. And it just, when the synchronicities overlap with the experiences, starts to blow your mind.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
make you
that's
think,
true.
this is really going on. And then you couple the fact that the Big Island has a UFO star visitor landing pad, which we may or may not be able to go to, but it's on the east side of the island, just south of Hilo. It's a designated UFO landing pad built by the rightful Hawaiian kingdom and identified as such. It's called the
Wow.
Star Visitors Sanctuary. Look it up.
Wow.
And it's officially, you know, decreed on their website, starvisitorsanctuary.com or .org, and they have like official documentation on there signed by um, the folks that believe that they're the rightful, you know, royalty. Because got to remember, Hawaii was a kingdom at some point that was annexed and eventually turned into a state, 1959.
Right.
And so there's it's another whole nother topic, but there's a landing pad, designated landing pad on this island, and it seems like this is going to be where some sort of disclosure happens. But yeah, the UFO phenomenon is definitely one of my favorite avenues to explore. I've had, oh, here's the other synchronicity I just remembered. The night before, my buddy called from Oahu and told me that they were watching, that they were aware that I was up there the night before. My partner Jenna, she had a dream where she was on board of a craft, and they were trying to get her to tell me to listen, to look up, to pay attention, to keep looking into it. And we woke up in the middle of the night because the dream was so intense for her that she woke me up too. And she was telling me about it. She wasn't scared, but she was like, that was the most vivid dream I'd ever had. So we go back to bed, and I had the same dream too. I literally had the same dream she did, where I was on a craft surrounded by beings that
Wow.
didn't give off a malevolent feeling. They weren't there to hurt me or probe me, but they were possibly trying to communicate to me through the dream world, you know, through that modality. And then the next day, of course, um, Brandon calls and tells me, "Oh yeah, that was the Galactic Federation." So I mean, I don't know, and that's why I said I think we're part star visitors. You know,
Yeah.
we have that capability as well. We're from the stars, and that's why I think a lot of ancient cultures were obsessed with the stars. We're
Yeah.
obsessed with building platforms that they could go and look at the stars. What were they waiting for? Who were they waiting for? Well, the Hawaiians have gone as far to make a landing pad for the star visitors. If that's not compelling, I don't know what is.
Has anything landed there? Do you know of, or?
Not to my
Okay.
knowledge.
All
Not
right.
to my knowledge.
Okay.
And here's the thing: these, according to that website, the star visitors can only land in sovereign places because they've made arrangements with the military, the U.S. government, that they won't land in Los Angeles, you know, downtown
Yeah.
on Sunset Boulevard. They're not going to land on in Oahu and Waikiki Beach, you
No.
know, because it would cause panic, and it would cause, and that's not what they want. The
No.
good ones.
Right.
They want us to kind of come into our evolution and join this cosmic family. And so the reason why the Hawaiian Star Visitor Sanctuary was built and given and dedicated by the rightful Hawaiian kingdom was because now that is sovereign land on paper,
Uh-huh.
and that they can land there if they choose to.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I can't wait to take you there and to show you. And
Yeah. Now, this isn't in the same area exactly, but I met a girl last time I was over there who told me that in Wood Valley, which is more south, I believe,
Mhm.
that they no, she was just straight up. She said the Andromedans. I mean, you know, I don't know how she knows this, but she said the Andromedans keep on coming at night, and we watch them, and I'm like, wow, really? So, and then somebody else dovetailed that. We met, I think, the same day. That yeah, there is a lot of UFO sightings in that valley for some reason. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
a
know
hot,
how it's a hot spot,
absolutely. It's a
right?
hot spot, and you know that's close to some magnetic anomalies that I shared with you that I wrote about in my
Yeah.
Hawaii Vortex Field Guide. It's
Mhm.
close to the volcanoes. You know, we have 3 active volcanoes on the Big Island: Mauna Loa, Kilauea, and not many people know, but Hualalai, right over Kona.
Oh, is
It's
it still
also,
active?
it's an active, it's geologically active. It's not extinct.
Uh-huh.
It may be a little dormant, but it's on high alert. If you look up Hualalai,
Yeah.
it's on high alert that something could happen. But there's a lot of magnetic energy, and these Andromedan craft, these Palladian craft, probably all the crafts get their energy from magnetism and gravity in some way. They're not filling up at the Shell station, obviously. And they may have a device on board that can power their craft, but it might need to be recharged every now and then. And so that's why you end up seeing a lot of sightings around the volcanoes.
Mountains. Yeah.
Mountains, volcanoes. Japan has a lot of unusual sightings. Japan has a lot of volcanoes, and there's a lot of webcams that are on these volcanoes so people can see what's going on. And then there's craft literally flying in and around these volcanoes right before our eyes, but again, it takes, your curiosity has to be weaponized and utilized. Otherwise, people, like you said, they admitted the subject was real, but not many people care. It's
right.
Yeah. So.
I wonder too, like, so I've had a lot flash at me, blink at me in the night. And it feels very intuitive. It's like it's telekinetic. It's like I'm not.
It's confirming.
Yeah.
That was meant for you. That's
right.
I had the same thing happen not too long ago. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. So I get out there, and now I ask, "Are you guys up there? Can you see us? Or can we see you?" And sometimes one will come by and just boom, like, as some people call power up, boom, like that. And I know a lot of people that have listened to this show, I don't know what they think of that because I don't get the feedback from it, but I mean, I don't know. I had somebody from England, the UK, contact me a while back about he sees the same thing. So it's like for you, it feels like it's for you. It's not for everybody, because I even had a neighbor who we were trying to point out, it wasn't one that was flashing, but it was definitely not a satellite. And it's like he couldn't actually see it at all. It's so weird. And I just don't think he's turned on. Like he's just hasn't turned on that part of his DNA, or maybe it's, I don't know.
His filter's still activated,
yeah.
And a lot of people's filters are activated because it would be overwhelming if it wasn't that way. You know? I had the same thing happen the other night in front of 3 of my friends. And this wasn't a UFO tour, but I'd say it was probably about 3 months ago. I was invited up to a ranch on the northern tip of the island, where my friends stay every time they visit, and they just bought land right next to it. So they're going to be moving here soon. But something told me to bring my UFO equipment, my night vision, my technology and all that stuff, laser pen, everything. Something told me to bring it. Like, it wasn't that they asked me to, and I wasn't really planning to, but at the last minute, something's like, oh, I should bring that just in case, we end up looking up there. And we've my friends, we'd gone looking for some old lost Mu ruins up in the north part of the island, and we found what we were looking for. And so we were kind of recapping that, and then I started talking about my UFO research and MUFON and these tours and things, and I was really feeling this sense of like truth and really passionate about talking about this phenomenon. And we were all standing kind of on this balcony together, all looking at the same point in the sky facing Maui. We could actually see Maui in the distance. The red flashing lights on the windmills, not the island, because this was nighttime.
Okay.
And we're just talking about it, and we all look up at the same time, and just like you said, there was that bright flash, and everybody saw it. It was meaningful. It was a synchronicity. It was them saying, pay attention, look up. We're all connected. And we're confirming. They confirmed it, that it was real. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't Batman or Superman. It was a random blink one time when we were all looking at it all kind of on a cohesive mental page. We were all on the same page. And that's why sometimes people don't see it, is because they're not on that same page. You're not cohesive. You haven't mind melded,
Yeah.
and fascinating stuff. I need to get out there again and keep looking up. I keep getting all these signs, but like I said, I've been running a couple businesses now, the tours and the publishing. I have a book festival coming up, the first annual Big Island Book Fest I'm launching
Yeah.
next month on the 21st. And just, a lot of this mundane business stuff has taken away from my research. And that's why I was mentioning to you when you contacted me about my article about the In Search of Mu, the Lost Pyramids of Hawaii. You really helped bring back that researcher side in me. So
Oh,
thank you.
thanks.
Thank
Oh,
you.
well, hey, I'm
Yeah.
happy to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you helped dust me off,
Yeah.
and now I'm back, and we're going to be coming back with a bang, with our upcoming expeditions, my
Yes.
star maps, and other fascinating research. Matter of fact, a friend of mine, David Childress, the founder of the World Explorers Club magazine, the longtime star of Ancient Aliens on History Channel,
Yeah.
just wrote back to me and said he's waiting for an article from us. He wants an article, and we could possibly have a front page article in the World Explorers magazine, which the next issue comes out in October. So I
Nice.
think maybe we won't be able to make that issue because we're doing stuff in October. So maybe in the future, but
Yeah.
he's ready for us, and he's done a lot of research into it as well.
Yeah.
But it feels like the torch has been passed on, and we got to keep searching. Just keep
Yeah.
searching. Yeah.
I want to say what you said to me. Maybe it was in a text, but we people like us and a lot of people I've had on now recently and stuff are like the next generation of this exploring of our ancient past and everything. We're
Mhm.
like the next, the people that kind of we're standing on the shoulders of giants, but those people are getting older and they're passing the torch to people like our age and stuff. I feel like,
Right.
yeah,
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah,
And a lot of them, they've made TV shows out of it and cruises out of it, and they've made careers out of it, and they're not really too quick to pass that on in a way. So we're
right,
gonna have to do it ourselves,
yeah,
and you're doing it with the podcast and your documentaries, and I'm doing it with my books and my research, and eventually they're gonna say, "Hey, come join us," and they're gonna pass the baton. Either that, or we're gonna have to take it from them. When you're in a marathon race,
yeah,
and you're waiting for the person with the baton to catch up, and you have to start running ahead, so
right,
that way when you grab the baton, you're both running. It's not like the Olympics where they're just giving you the torch and you're standing still. This is a marathon,
yeah,
and so yeah, they're definitely getting older in the field, and there's a whole, your sons too are the next generation, and my son, 5 years old, he's going to be the next following generation of explorers and curious minds, type of thing like that. And it's just
yeah,
so cool to find our position in that, to carry it on, and to do a good job, which
yeah.
you're doing a great job.
Oh, yeah, and you as well. This is great. I'm so happy to be able to be part of whatever this is. It's kind of been bigger than me. If when I announced to this show, I don't know, 2 years ago, I'm going to make a documentary. I had no idea it was going to go this direction, and it just formed. It's not
Mhm.
even me. It's bigger than me and you. But all this research is just people are coming out of the. I'm meeting people that I never thought, like yourself, and other people I would just never thought to meet, and it's just becoming an amazing ride, and I'm loving it. So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're about an hour in, so maybe we should round it out.
Okay.
This that you have a festival coming up. Maybe you should
Sure.
promote that a little bit too, and your work and your website and all that would be great to know for
Oh,
everybody to know.
well, thank you. Yeah. So I started a publishing company in 2015, 2016. I was originally my first book, Pyramid Rising: Planetary Acupuncture to Combat Climate Change, interesting title, was written in 2012, right before everyone thought that the Mayan calendar was going to end, the whole world was going to end, everything like that. And so the premise of my book is that no, the world wasn't going to end, and pyramids are not tombs, not all of them, and that the earth is a living body, and that pyramids are like acupuncture needles that kind of help alleviate the energy, the telluric currents, and maybe even allowed the ancients to utilize that energy into electricity, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, flash forward to now. I am the owner and creator of Stone Compass Press, which is the name of my publishing company, and I'm also the co-founder of the Hawaii Writers Alliance, and we are throwing our first festival next month here on the Big Island on September 21st. In Keauhou at Keauhou Shopping Center. It's sponsored by Kona Stories Bookstore, Stone Compass Press, the Hawaii Writers Alliance, and Keauhou Shopping Center. And it's just going to bring a bunch of Hawaii's amazing literary artists and talents together for a day of a festival and festivities, you know. So yeah, that's definitely something I appreciate you letting me plug, because it's taken a lot of work to get here. And so if you happen to find yourself on the Big Island on September 21st, check it out. The Big Island Book Fest is what it's called. You can find information on HawaiiWritersAlliance.com website. Also, you can find all my books at ZachRoyer.com. That's my author website. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've got a few thousand subscribers, and I recently just signed up for a part-time job at a public television studio. So I'm to begin that next week. I'll be a TV producer here on the Big Island, and this is giving me all the tools and equipment that I need to do an actual real production, a big-time production. And so I'm going to start working for Naleo Public Television. That's Naleo, NALEO.TV. They're a wonderful public TV organization here on the Big Island. And I've done some productions for them in the past, but as a volunteer. And now I'm starting a new part-time job over there next week. And I'm really excited for that. So I can't wait to bring some awareness to the community here with community issues, storytellers. I mean, there's so much out there that deserves to be talked about and heard by people that I can't wait to get into that. So I'm really excited. It's like a dream job for me, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a huge production studio, and I've already started meeting some movie producers and directors, and so, you know, that's the direction we're going. That's the medium that people like is movies, video. It's a double-edged sword, you know, because you get a lot of propaganda stuff too in the media, like Hollywood, Hollyweird. It's so you got to kind of fight fire with fire, and you've got to use what people want, and that's TV, video, and so I can't wait to continue that. So I'm going to be releasing a new book soon. I was just on Oahu doing some research where we actually got to meet for the first time, and we went on a mini expedition ourselves, and that was so memorable. So stay tuned for my book. I'm hoping to release it by the end of the year, but if not, first part of 2025.
Cool.
The Oahu Vortex Field Guide, book 3 of the Island Vortex series. So I've written one for Big Island, I wrote one for Maui, and now Oahu's coming out, and maybe Kauai in the future.
Nice.
So I want to throw a little bit more information about my current research in these star map alignments with the Heiaus and its connection to Mu. I'm going to try to include that in the Oahu Vortex Field Guide coming up.
Very cool.
So a bunch of cool things on the horizon, some things that I've been sworn to secrecy about our upcoming expeditions. Can't talk about quite yet, but I'm telling you, stay tuned to Loomis's podcast, Chant It Down, because he's going to be releasing his documentary and this information, you know, not specifics of where we're at, but it will help people understand the importance of being curious and being a researcher and looking deeper into things. and not
Yes.
believing everything that we've been told. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to work with you. Thank you again
Yeah, me too.
for dusting me off, the Royer the Explorer.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I'm getting back to my roots. So if
Oh,
you want to see some of my past investigations, I also have a research website, kahunaresearchgroup.org. There's a lot of paranormal investigations I've done. We're not currently active, but like I said, we're coming back, and so expect something really cool by the end of October.
yeah.
That's all I can say. Yeah.
Hey, cool. And I'm happy to dust that off. I
Yeah.
I love inspiring people, because people inspire you, inspire me. So it's great. It's all connected like that. Awesome. Well,
Absolutely.
thanks, Zach, for coming on. And
Sure.
I hope, if anyone wants to attend this festival, September is actually a cheap month to fly to Hawaii. It's off season. So
Mhm.
you might get better deals than you would have even this month, August. So yeah, check it out. All right. Well, thanks, Zach, for coming on,
You're
and
welcome.
you'll be
My
back
pleasure.
on again, I'm sure. All
Yep.
right.
Thanks, Eunice. Great chatting
Yep.
with you guys.